Hello, everyone. My name is Amin Mohammad, and I'm worried about Africa. Why am I worried? Let's talk about Africa Free Trade Area. In fact, this is a great initiative that is going to help the African continent prosper in terms of economic resources. But why do we talk about free trade in Africa without free movement in Africa? Ghana, South Africa has done amazing. Some other countries have done amazing by waiving off visa applications and a whole lot. But my worry stems from this part. My worry comes from the part where in 2023, in one of the panel discussions, Aliko Dangote, the richest man in Africa, had to say that he had to struggle to get visas to travel across Africa. Why the borders? Why all these strict and ambiguous borderline restrictions among Africans? In fact, Africa will not get it right until we are able to deal away with these borders. How do you manage free trade without free movement? When I have to struggle, when I have to be stranded, when I have to be frustrated just from moving from Ghana to Mali. Let's look at what is happening in Africa. People say neo-colonialism, people say brain drain, people say whatever they think. But here is what I think. There is no political will to see Africa prosper. In fact, the AU's Agenda 2063 is far rich. But how do we get this right when we are unable to deal with the differences? We spoke about one currency for Africa. We thought it was coming, but all of a sudden we don't know what has happened. Here is what even kills my soul. Why does one need, or why does the African Union need people to sign petitions to tell them the reason why there should be free movement in Africa? In fact, I understand there was a pact and only 4 countries as at now has signed the pact. What is really our problem? Countries like Togo is actually comfortable in its cocoon little land, when a country like Ghana is also actually, in fact, in order to penetrate, they just divided us into smaller groups and make sure they shared it. And so some of the Mosis were found in Ghana, Burkina, with all these barriers around them, meanwhile, when they are one group. Some of the Ewes were found in Ghana and Togo and Benin, with all these barriers, meanwhile, they are just one people, separated by language, separated by artificial barriers. They talk about brain drain, but our leaders are failing to build opportunities that reward excellence for the African who choose to stay in this country. They talk about Africans naturalizing to the Western world and forget that the person who had wanted to play wholeheartedly for the Black Stars or the indomitable Lions of Cameroon were actually stranded because they were told to pay bribes. They say the youth is the future. Meanwhile, they are frustrating the youth, saying, hey, the youth does not have the experience to manage the country. And so the youth fled. They fled and never came back. And what happened then? The continent is still lying, hoping that one day we will be able to get to the point where we will understand that our future is nowhere for anybody to build but our own. When Nkrumah said the independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it is linked up with the total liberation of Africa. When he said that, in fact, Lumumba was really inspired to do something at Congo But unfortunately, what happened in Katanga denied Africa yet another opportunity to be free. When Nkrumah left Ghana for a peace talk, he thought he was going to do that good rail. Meanwhile, back home, there was a very bad rail that led Ghana today. But that does not mean that Nkrumah does not live, because every day when I pass on the motorway from Accra to Tema, I say, God bless Nkrumah. This is the kind of leaders that Africa used to have. But unfortunately, today we have the kind of leaders who thought, in fact, winning the next election is the most important thing. And so we see a lot of corruption here and there, but do you know who fuels this corruption? It is me and you. Who fuels this corruption when we think that we get nothing from them and so they must give us something to vote for them. Electioneering has become an avenue where voters are cashing out, and after the election, the politicians cash out within 4 years and come back to us again for us to vote for them. In fact, I subscribe to the party of the rightist group. But unfortunately, sometimes I feel like there is an awakening within me that says the politics of today, which is meant of lies and deceit, without any look of integrity, is not for me. Sometimes I'm torn between two parties. One party is the party I belong, and the other party is my subconscious mind that keeps telling me, you were born a politician, but this politics is not for you, and so you must find a way to make sure your politics works for you. But how does my politics work for me when the people to mentor me are still in the politics that does not belong to me? And by this, I mean the future, which we say belongs to the youth. The youth are being mentored by the politicians of today, whom we despise so much. They lie their way to power, and when they come to power, they think they were the people who belonged to power. They lie their way to power, and when they come to power, they think, I have arrived. And so they do what they want without coming to us until the next 4 years. I have a problem, and my problem is very simple. When do we achieve economic freedom for a unity of Africa? When do we arrive at a point when we say the white man who comes in the form of corporations, the Chinese man who comes in the form of monies printed for us? In fact, the African Union people think have failed us. I don't subscribe to that failure, but when African Union is quiet, when a leader decides to stay in power for eternity, but rather very active on a leader who comes through power through military coup and seems to revolutionize leadership in his country, that is where I have a problem. Irrespective of whatever we think, I think Africa still has the opportunity to rise. And Africa will only rise through the rising echoes of our youth. The youth who believe strongly that Africa still have a hope. The hope of Nkrumah, the hope of Thomas Sankara, the hope of Patrice Emery Lumumba. My name is Amin Mohammad, and this has been my worry. And I hope it is your worry too. Until then, let Africa rise. Let Africa keep revolutionizing until we get it right. Let Africa keep fighting until we end the war. And so, as Nkrumah wrote the book The Last Days of Imperialism, which is neo-colonialism. So long as it is not the word of God, as we believe that the word of God is eternity, then I think neo-colonialism, imperialism, in fact, political puppetry, which has reduced the African spirit to a form of tokenism, will definitely end. Definitely not today, but one day, and very soon.